Hey guys, how's it going? It's Philip with Trade Genius. So Bitcoin is at another all-time high. It's claimed the 8,000 mark, and depending on which exchange, actually hit 8,100. So as usually is the case, people want to know, where do we go from here? So I wanted to take the time in this video just to kind of break down the technicals and see what levels we'd be looking at as far as potential moves and potential pauses or pullbacks from there. So let's go ahead and, without further ado, and dive into some charts. All right, so let's bring up the daily chart here. Essentially what we have here, the shaded area, is kind of an ascending triangle. Now, those can be bearish, they'll tend to fall out, and but that's not always the case 100% of the time, so this certainly could move higher. Now, we do have a daily long firing on our Trade Genius Crypto Money Machine indicator. Okay, so that's been picking up some really good moves on the daily. As you can see here, picked up this nice move, got you out, signaled here, and then kind of fired exit. The exit signals are really, really good at getting you out before a downturn. You can see that here. This got out at some consolidation before a move higher, and you saw an exit signal here, and you avoided this down move here. But so getting a signal here, if we get another exit signal up in here, if we break out of this, right now it's about 20 minutes before the London session financial markets open. So if they do buy it, and that dynamic, by the way, is there's what in Europe they have ETNs, and they have Bitcoin ETN. So think of it as like an ETF, but that's what they use in Europe. And those have been seeing massive inflows as far as what they have under management. I think they currently have 400 million or so under management, but they've been having huge exponential growth. So a lot of times what we've been seeing is, like, overnight, the London sessions, we start seeing some buying when those markets open up. So I think that's kind of been the driver of that activity or that action when we're in an upswing or an up leg in Bitcoin price movement. Okay, so that being said, if this ascending triangle breaks out, we'll be looking at these fib targets. The first one we would have is 81.87. That would be off of this small fib zone from this little pullback. 84.54, that's from this one here. And this one is, we're currently building this one here. So if this goes higher, then this is going to adjust up. And so we really haven't seen a retrace. This would be valid if this pulled back and didn't really make any new highs and pulled back. Then we'd see how far this pullback went. I think currently what we're looking at here on the daily, one thing, so there's a couple bearish possibilities. One is this ascending triangle breaks down. The other is we have a bearish, what we call a bearish divergence. So on our RSI, if the RSI is not making a new high, but price is, so RSI was here, had a higher reading here than it did here. Okay, so that's a sign. Now, you can get a couple moves or another move higher and a lower RSI reading before it really exhausts. I think that we have about 2 to 3 more days where we start getting into these levels. So if we're bullish like we were here and here over the course of the next 48 to 72 hours, and we get up in the 8,500 range, I definitely think we're nearing exhaustion, and we could probably see a 10 to 15% pullback. And then we'd start looking at areas where we have volume accumulation. So personally, I think if we did run up there, possibly could see a pullback down to the 7,200 level. So I'm really curious to see what the overnight session with London, and then going into the US session to see if we get some more of that, that opening Sunday night, Monday morning market action, because that usually gives us a good indication of how the week's going to go. Okay, so that's the daily. Now, if we look at the weekly chart, that is a huge engulfing, bullish engulfing candle. Okay, and whenever we get those on the weekly, like here, you're looking at quite a bit higher. Now this one's a little interesting because normally those have come off of pullbacks. And true, this one did pull back, but it's like unique in that we had like a big weekly bar, and immediately another weekly bar. So something to keep in mind that these are usually tend to be pretty powerful signals for continuation, at least for a couple, 3 weeks actually. So, but what we may see is a quicker pullback if we do run up the next 3 days, pull back quickly, and then in reality, the next 2-3 weeks we go higher. Okay, so don't ignore those big weekly engulfing bars. They're pretty powerful. All right, so that's the weekly. If we look at and actually I wanted to point out back to the daily. If you guys look on that, we have the daily long signal that fired, and that, I think it's kind of interesting because we have a juxtaposition and we have couple of bearish things that tend to have been bearish for Bitcoin in the past, but then we have this long signal, and those are pretty powerful in and of themselves. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. We also have a long signal on the hourly. Okay, so we had a long signal here fire that preceded this move up. We got to exit out on this bar, and now we got another long signal, which is kind of how this thing flows with you'll go long, exit, and you might get another long right away. So it's definitely possible we could break out of this in the next 24 hours and move up into the 8200 range. But what I would say is keep an eye on this triangle or ascending wedge, and if you break this trend line, then I think we'll see probably at least a pullback to the 7500 area. Okay, so that's basically what I'm looking at now that we've made these new highs. And but if this move continues higher, I'm going to tell you right now, 8800 would probably be we'd be getting altitude sickness. That's a level that's been consistently at this point would fall in line with a lot of the other overbought conditions that we've had. Looking at some other technicals that I look at, and I would definitely be waving the flag of probably we need time for a pullback. Maybe not a big one though, could probably 10 or 15%. It'll be interesting to see how Bitcoin finishes out the year, because where it is at the end of the year I think is going to be pretty important as far as pricing models and some of the log charts that we have. This is a log chart that where did it go? Here we go. So this log chart we've been tracking. This is the one that takes us to 100,000 by January 1. And so, this is going to be the roadmap until price tells us otherwise. This trajectory actually has increased in value, or in velocity, if you will, compared to over here. And if this keeps pushing up, maybe this is conservative and it goes higher. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. There's just a lot of inflows waiting to get into Bitcoin. Wall Street wants a non-correlating asset, and I think because of the unique supply issues that we have with Bitcoin, it's just a different asset class, and it's going to do things that we just aren't used to seeing price-wise going up. Okay, so that's it. That's kind of what we see on Bitcoin right now. If you guys are interested in this indicator, check out the Trade Genius link below, the Trade Genius Academy, and we've got some Black Friday specials, and that'll be the best way to get the indicator, and you'll also be able to hang out in the room where we're talking crypto all the time. And so anyway guys, that's it for this video. Tomorrow probably going to cover Lisk, and then I also later in the week want to cover, once we get some concrete information, this stuff floating around about Bitfinex and Tether. Tether, they're the USD equivalent for crypto. If you want to get out of, if you want to sell your Bitcoin because it's oversold, you slide into USD Tether on exchanges like Bittrex. And there's been some concern about the solvency of that. And so once we get some concrete information on that, I want to cover that, and hopefully we can do that this week. All right, guys, take care. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and thanks for your time. Until tomorrow, have a great day. Bye.